You got Khamzat and Conor McGregor. Uh, Basically, both guys are frustrated. I mean, both guys are frustrated. They both want to fight. And people act like neither one wants to fight, and therefore they're no good anymore. It's not true. Khamzat definitely wants to fight. That's not even a question. Conor McGregor, I was leaning the other way, that it was more talk than really wanting to fight until I saw the documentary on Netflix. And in the documentary, you see him behind the scenes, like wanting to fight. After the Cerrone fight, he was on the phone wanting to fight immediately, and they wouldn't let him. And then months and months go by, the pandemic hits, and then McGregor's sidelined, and then he comes back and he loses. Then he gets injured, and then he's out for 2 years, and now it's going on 3. And, the guy is frustrated because, first of all, when you just think of fighters like Khamzat, Conor, and all the fighters in the UFC, when they go for a good length of time without a fight, and more so without an opponent in their mind to prepare for, it's extremely frustrating. We heard this from Volkanovski. It's extremely frustrating when you don't have an opponent to train for. This is why Volk is coming back so quick against Topuria. So both these guys have a right to be frustrated. They should be frustrated. They should want to fight. That's what these guys were born to do. They want to fight. And the UFC dragging their feet. Now, overall, the UFC does a good job with matchmaking. I mean, it's incredible. It really is. Some of these fights are very tough to predict. It's even. But when it comes to some of the superstars like these two, the UFC isn't so much concerned about title fights as they are waiting for the exact right moment. And the exact right moment just hurts the fighter. Now, the UFC is going to go through its process, is going to offer these fighters fights that they don't want to take, and they're going to say no. And then the UFC can drag their feet because, contractually, they fulfilled their obligation. They offer the 3 fights per year. If they only say yes to one of them, then they fight once that year probably. Doesn't mean they can't offer them 4 or 5 fights, but the bottom line is, these two guys are frustrated. These are fighters, guys that want to fight. And to be sitting on the sideline wanting to fight and not being able to get a fight, if you're Khamzat, you can't get an opponent. If you're McGregor, you can't get a date. There's certain times of the year when the UFC isn't going to do as well as others, or the UFC pay-per-view event isn't going to do as well as other pay-per-view events. So that's where they will stick McGregor. Okay, so August, we're not having great turnout in the month, and I'm just making it up right now. Maybe August is a bad month for the UFC. Well, that's where they're going to fill in McGregor, because then it won't be a bad month, you see? So this keeps McGregor on the sideline. And this is why he goes on a rant every once in a while. Khamzat goes on a rant saying he was promised a title fight. These two guys are just extremely unhappy. And these are not two guys that the UFC should want unhappy. Why can't McGregor fight 2 or 3 times a year, even if it's not against the best opponents? A lot of people will be interested in Conor McGregor versus anybody. Let him go in there and get some confidence and get some wins. Feed this guy a fight, man. And now they're locked in with Chandler. And Chandler's very smart because he's getting close to the end, right? So he's like, I don't care if I got to wait 2 or 3 years, I'm fighting McGregor, because that's going to probably pay more in that fight with the points, pay-per-view points, than it would fighting 2 or 3 times, potentially. So he's going to wait. And then it goes down in history. You know what I mean? All the people watching it after the fact, too. Like, there's a lot of money to be made from Michael Chandler, so he's just chilling. He don't care. He's ready to fight whenever the UFC gives him a date, and he's got time to train. He's ready to go. And the fact that he wants to fight McGregor at 185, if that's even true now, right, is madness. It just shows you that Chandler don't give a dang. If I was McGregor, I'd be a little bit worried about this one. Michael Chandler said he don't care if it's at 155 or 205. Well, really 185, but it's crazy. He wants McGregor at his biggest and baddest. even if he has to wait, and even if he has to fight 30 pounds out of his weight class. Like, who really cares when these guys are out of their weight class? Give Conor some, weaker middleweight that he's got a good chance to beat. Let him go in there and get some confidence, and then let's talk about the next fight. But no, the UFC is not going to do that. They're probably going to let these guys fight out of the lightweight division, and it's meaningless. Much like they said Khamzat versus Usman was, because Usman wasn't ranked in the division. So what does it really? I mean, it got Khamzat ranked, but if you can't fight, then what does it really matter? But in that situation, Khamzat probably shouldn't have been ranked in reality, right? Because if you beat an unranked opponent, you don't just get ranked unless you're like creeping at the top 15 or something. But it does nothing for McGregor or Chandler. So why does McGregor even want that? That's the other question. There's a lot of confusing things here. Does McGregor really want to fight and try to win a title again? If he does, he shouldn't even want to fight Michael Chandler. He should be looking at someone in that division that maybe welterweight, where he thinks he might be able to creep up. Maybe one day match up against a Leon Edwards or something like that. But no, that's not what's happening. He's just going to fight someone for the money that he doesn't need, which is mind-boggling. 30 pounds out of the weight class. So, these guys are frustrated. There's a lot going on. It's hard to decipher. It's hard to figure out. And it's frustrating as a fan because you just want to see both these guys in the octagon.
He's gonna fight, wait, he's gonna fight, wait, hold your breath till the end of the night. Last fighter call, UFC at its height, yeah. Bringing that thunder with all his might, saying step up, wanna fight, hold up, think twice, gladiator, assassin, reckless, no abandon, walk through that cage, he'll leave your ass stranded, wake up, hey, where you at, hey, got hit in the head with a baseball.